exciting car in this rally, perhaps the Audi Quattro, turbocharged, four-wheel drive. Nicola, twice the winner of this event. And John, this is the car of the future.
Oh, undoubtedly, and on my unofficial watch, he's so much quicker than anything else up to here. Four-wheel drive, is this the way cars are going in the future?
Hannu Mikkola's win with the revolutionary Audi Quattro heralds the arrival of a new era in rallying. The age of the supercar has arrived. Four-wheel drive and turbocharging are the keys to success, and all future serious contenders must heed the warning.
Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day and welcome to another episode of Motorsport History. As promised, this time we'll be taking a look at Group B Rally, probably one of the greatest motorsport classes of all time. The set of regulations seen in Group B made history. It was a true test of man and machine. So buckle up in your seat and let's take a look at the golden era of rally. Group B was first introduced in 1982, and it's safe to say that this class brought a new type of car to life. The roughest, the toughest, the fastest, the most powerful, and with that, the most dangerous cars the world has ever seen. Because of these cars, Group B was short-lived, since it was brought down by the FIA only 4 years later, in 1986, for claiming too many casualties. Let's take a look and experience the greatest adrenaline rush that motorsport had to offer, the ruthless Group B. Unlike Group A, which had many restrictions in power, weight, technology allowed, and the overall budget, Group B was simple. Very few restrictions were made on how the cars can be manufactured. High-tech materials were allowed, and forced induction was permitted with no limits. So while Group A cars, like in DTM, were restricted to around 250 horsepower, Group B on the other hand had cars with upwards of 500 horsepower. One driver once stated that launching from the start of these cars is like being hit in the back by a truck. Keep in mind, this was mostly in the dirt. Also, we're talking about the 80s again. For reference, the most powerful supercar of that time was the 2.9-liter twin-turbo V8-driven Ferrari F40, which was pushing out 477 horsepower, which is much less than what Group B cars were pushing out in their Evolution models. Let's divide the group into two, the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive, to allow a simpler comparison. In rear-wheel drive, we have two main competitors, Lancia and Opel, and on the other hand, in all-wheel drive, we have Audi and Peugeot. These were arguably the best teams of the time, although I have to give honorable mentions to Ford and Metro. Starting with Lancia, in their wonderful Martini liveries, they raced with the 037. It was based on the Lancia Monte Carlo, and there is a resemblance. They were both mid-engine cars, but apart from that, they were obviously different. The 037 had a steel subframe and body panels made up of Kevlar. Unlike their Ferrari-powered Stratos, they initially placed a 2-liter supercharged 4-cylinder with 265 horsepower, but soon the displacement was increased to 2.1 liters and they managed to pull 325 horses from it. The 037 managed to get the most number of wins in the season of 1983, gathering 118 points and winning the manufacturer's title. In the driver's seat was Walter Röhrl. Lancia showed the other teams that they are not giving up the fight even though they don't have the advantages of all-wheel drive, and this was a fight to remember. Second was the Opel Manta B, a great competitor that got overshadowed by the all-wheel drive competition. Nevertheless, the Manta made the books, and it's sometimes known as the forgotten rally car. The Manta was made to replace the Ascona, being lighter and faster. It retained the front engine rear-wheel drive layout, and just like the 037, it had body panels made up of Kevlar. Powered by a naturally aspirated 2.4 liter, which was pushing out 275 horsepower, made it fall behind the competition. But it sure does look and sound beautiful, thanks to the Cosworth-tuned engine. Next, we take a look at the all-wheel drive category, and I'm starting this one off with the Audi Quattro, probably the favorite of all time. The S1 came with a 2.1 liter turbocharged 5-cylinder with dual overhead cams, meaning 20 valves, and that was pushing out 450 brake horsepower. But then, Audi came out with their E2 version, which managed to claim a staggering 590 horses. Obviously, this car was different from the previous two. It suffered from a lot of issues being much heavier due to its shape and all-wheel drive system. The car was very front-heavy, which was not good for its handling, but the power and the Porsche-designed quick-shift transmission still managed to put it on the leaderboards. And this is when the cars got too fast. Drivers stated that the best way to drive this car is all out and constantly sideways. With Audi, I have to mention Michèle Mouton, also known as the First Lady of Rallying. Michèle managed to break staggering records. Her most well-known was on Pikes Peak Hill Climb using the S1. On these events, the Quattro's power range was upwards of 600 horsepower, later on reaching 750. That is, in my opinion, insane. Audi won the seasons of 1983 and 1984. Audi has some strong competition on their hands, the greatest competitor being the Peugeot 205 Turbo 16, which stole the title and managed to score the wins of the final two seasons, 1985 and 1986. The 205 was much smaller and lighter than the Audi, and it didn't suffer from the front-end heavy steering issues since the 205 had the mid-engine layout. It came with a turbocharged 1.8 liter dual overhead cam 16-valve 4-cylinder, easily pushing out upwards of 500 horsepower. And if you were wondering, they used twin-scroll turbines that were making up to 43 psi of boost. Behind the wheel of this beast was Timo Salonen in 1985 and Juha Kankkunen in 1986. The 2nd of May in 1986 was the last day of Group B. I'm not keen on going over all the deaths and injuries it caused over the years, but on this day, Group B took the lives of Henri Toivonen and co-driver Sergio Cresto in their Lancia Delta S4 when they did not make it through a left-hand turn in Corsica. Nobody knows what happened, and it remains a mystery today. That is just how insane these cars were. The Delta S4 was another all-wheel drive 500 plus horsepower beast, powered by a twin-charged 1.8 liter dual overhead cam 16-valve 4-cylinder. For those of you who don't know, twin-charged means the engine was equipped with a turbo and a supercharger to reduce turbo lag. Here is where the FIA saw the things going out of hand and decided to put a stop to it. Fans still hope that one day Motorsport will see something similar to Group B, but we all have our doubts because it was simply so dangerous. And on that note, I'm ending this episode. If you'd like to see a part 2 of the Group B series talking about the monster prototypes that didn't manage to get homologated in time, like the Ford RS 2000, be sure to show some support. I'd really appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and I'll be back with weekly uploads.